Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Friday, February 14th, 2020. Happy Valentine's Day. I want to bring you all an update to a story. It's not the best story, and it's a horrible story on this wonderful Valentine's Day, but I'm going to bring it to you anyway because it's an update to this story. Please be aware of the information that I'm going to bring you. It's not going to be it's not going to be good news. I will use my words very delicately in the story. I want to give you some background on this story before I bring you the said information. The information I'm going to bring to you is about a gentleman who has been found guilty in the rape of his child here in the state of Tennessee. This information is brought to you by the Tennessean as of November 18th, 2018, when the story first broke. A Lawrenceburg man by the name of Simon Dean Porter, 33 years of age, went on the run for the rape of his child. They found him in Scottsboro, Alabama. He's from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. He was put on the top 10 most wanted list at that time. He was found walking down Highway 79 in Scottsboro, Alabama. A lady was driving by. She saw him. He looked familiar. She didn't have good reception, so she went and made a phone call, called the authorities, and it was indeed Mr. Simon Dean Porter, who was on the wanted list, on Tennessee's top 10 most wanted list for the rape of his child. His child was a 16-month-old boy who went to the Vanderbilt Hospital Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee with injuries. And it was there at that hospital that a physician notified authorities that the child had been violated. And that's what ensued, came an investigation into the rape of this child. At the time when the investigation started, police briefly spoke to Mr. Porter, and he then took off and ran. He went on the run, and he was wanted on the charge of aggravated rape of a child. His bond was set at $1 million, and as I stated, he fled once police came to talk to him about the abuse of the child. He confessed to the crime of raping his child, and he admitted that he knowingly and unlawfully penetrated his child, which caused severe and possibly permanent damage to the boy. His girlfriend at the time, which was the baby's mother, and he is the biological father, Mr. Porter. The baby's mother, Danielle Bowen, who was 22 at the time, was also arrested. At the time of this crime, neither parent had custody of the child, and they also share a daughter together. I do not know her age. The mother was arrested for felony child neglect and failure to seek medical attention, which both are felonies in this state. She did not seek medical attention for her son after the incident and has been held in the Lawrence County Jail. I'm going to bring you the story and the update to this story that happened last November. The incident took place on November 10th, 2018, and as I state, he was confronted by law enforcement, and he later fled after the initial interview and went on the run. He was later found in Scottsboro, Alabama, where he was brought to jail, extradited back to the state of Tennessee, and has stayed in jail up until this very moment, to where he has now been found guilty of the said crime. Lawrenceburg man convicted in 2018 child rape of a toddler faces decades in prison. This is brought to you by the Tennessean if you need verification for the story. A Lawrenceburg man may spend the next 85 years in prison after a jury convicted him Thursday of raping a toddler last year. Simon Dean Porter, then 33, was arrested in November 2018 after a search that crossed state lines. Investigators suspected Porter of aggravated rape of a child after Lawrenceburg police said they were notified about an assault by physicians at Vanderbilt University Medical Center when a 16-month-old relative was brought in for medical care. Porter was captured in Scottsboro, Alabama, a few days later. Brent Cooper, district attorney for Giles, Lawrence, Maury, and Wayne counties, confirmed the verdict on Thursday. Porter is scheduled for a sentencing hearing April 3rd on the convictions of aggravated rape of a child and aggravated child abuse. He faces between 40 to 85 years in prison, Cooper said in an email. And this information is brought to you by the Tennessean. And now I will give you my commentary on this said situation. And as I state, he is facing up to 85 years in prison. The mother is currently in custody that I know of. Also arrested for felony child neglect and failure to seek medical attention for her child, facing 2 felonies for neglect. Neither parent had custody of the child. That makes you wonder who and had the child at the time. Who had the child? Where was the little girl? Who had the little girl? Who has both children now? You do not know, people. As I stated to you all in the earlier video that I brought to you about Miss Faye, who was found deceased this week in South Carolina. You don't know, people. I tell you this all the time in these stories, that it doesn't matter. You cannot trust people. One story is about a neighbor killing a child linked to a child's death. Now you find in this story, a father raped his own 16-month-old son. What in the hell would possess a grown man to penetrate a boy? Your own child. It's wrong to rape a child, period, but your own child. Then that leads you to wonder, did he sexually assault the daughter as well? What the hell were they doing with the kids? How did they even get access to have them and be around them to exact these crimes, and they didn't have custody of them? This is mind-blowing to me. How long had this been going on? Because, see, I thought they lived with these parents, but now that I read this update story for today about him being found guilty and everything, I thought the children lived with them. My understanding is that both children are his and hers. They are the parents of both children, boy and girl. So, obviously, they had access to these children. You would rape your child, and you don't even have custody of them. So when you got them, have you been raping them all the time, touching them all the time? What about the little girl? Do they have access to that child? Visitation rights with that child? So see, this goes deeper than you know. Because how did they even get access to the children, this son, him anyway, to do this to the child? Okay. How long did the mother know that something was going on with the little boy? Because as I state, I'm trying to figure all this out, the dynamics of the living arrangements with the children. Why did she wait? It is said on a Facebook post, good old Facebook, someone told her that you'll probably block me for this comment I'm going to make. It was a female. But she felt, this lady, girl, said to her, you let your child lay there for 2 days suffering and never called the authorities or took him to the doctor. So she got mad and called her a bitch and said, you can block me, I don't care. I ain't do nothing to my kid. Well, yes, half of you did, because you didn't take your child to the doctor when you knew he was suffering, and you knew he had to be in immense pain, because now the statement is saying from the doctor and the police, the child has damages done to his tail, his bottom, and will have them forever. So can you imagine what the child was going through at the time? Had to been hollering and screaming, and you're sitting there watching, and you're not even asking what's wrong with your baby. You're not even checking to see what's wrong with the baby, to see what's wrong. Why they're hollering and screaming. He had to been hollering and screaming. Think about that for just a second. How can you not call the doctor, police, whatever? Because as I state, if the allegations are true that the girl made on Facebook, that she let the baby lay there for 2 days suffering, how could you watch your child suffer? How could you not go say something? How could you not investigate your own child, take your child to the emergency room, and or call the police? Hell, how about bashing him upside his skull once you realize what was going on with your baby's bottom. That's why I'm wondering, has she been knowing something was going on with this man and his child? What was the dynamics of the child visiting and coming around? Because them saying not having custody, as I state, who had the kid and how did they end up getting access to the kids for him to rape his own son? No mention of a history, criminal history of him or her in the articles that I read today. No mention of him molesting or sexually assaulting any other children or the other child. How did he think he would not get? I'm trying to figure out, how did he think he wouldn't get away with this? You've penetrated a baby and you don't think they're going to look at you as a suspect? The mother as well. You didn't think they're going to look at you as neglecting your child because you didn't rear proper, adequate, swift medical attention to your baby? And who else is involved? Because if they want to say that these two didn't have custody, then who had the child to allow these demons to be around the baby? Yeah, I'm hot butter right now. This is a horrendous case because now we're dealing with people who are the biological parents raping a baby. You see, we're always talking about the outsider, the boogeyman, the creepy guy, the weird looking guy, the weird looking dude. Well, now you see, you have to watch the insider, the person in the home, the relative, the father. Who would think a grown 33-year-old man or 37-year-old man at the time would rape his own son, 16 months old? That's a year and a half. You would put your hands, filthy hands and bodily parts against a child, penetrate a child, whichsoever, and you didn't think you'd get caught. And then when they came to talk to you about the allegation, you fled. And by the grace of God, somebody saw that stinking alley bat walking down the highway in Alabama and turned him in. They said he had no bags, no nothing, just walking. Where the hell he thought he was going? This is so disturbing to me. I had seen this story a while ago. I don't think I opened it up. It was about last year sometime. But as you see, there's no more watching and looking and speculating that the bad man, bad woman is an outsider, that the insider, someone close to the victim, can violate the victim, the child. And in this case, it happened to be the father raping his own son. And the mother also arrested on 2 felony charges of child neglect as well. And that is correct. They did the right thing. Because I got a feeling she watched that child suffer for a day or so, or however long, and she didn't do anything about it. And I won't doubt that he's been penetrating that child or touching the child. And I won't doubt he could have possibly been violating the daughter as well and other children. Because you see, a pedophile usually don't care about who they sexually assault. Of course, they have an idea of what they may like or be attracted to. And excuse me for saying this, but it has been known that they do have a type. I know some of you don't want to hear that, but it is true. But in desperate times, I don't think they're going to care who they violate or assault, be it their own family member or a stranger. This is a sad tale, but I am glad that this creep is going down. I'm glad that this creep is going down for these charges. Simon Dean Porter, you are a sack, you know what? And that baby mama, she's a sack too. And have you ever noticed something about these baby mamas and baby daddies that are involved in these malicious and heinous crimes? They love to go to Facebook. Why is that? Have you all figured it out? That they take a part in the wrongdoing against their children. And the first place they run is Facebook. I got to tell the world my opinion. Miss Bowen, you didn't have nothing to tell the world, honey. You should be quiet. You should have been quiet then, because you should have been too ashamed to say anything about glad they caught my baby daddy stinking this, blah, 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 when you aided him in the rape of your child and then didn't even seek medical attention for the baby's rape. You had to know something was wrong with that baby, because he had to been grabbing at his bottom, showing you that he's in pain. And you mean to tell me you didn't think to pull down his undergarments or diaper to see what was going on with him? And then I'm sure you went up in that hospital playing crazy and dumb. I don't know what happened. I don't know. And they would have had to tell her, ma'am, there's no way you would have not have known something was going on with your baby. But you see, karma came home, justice came home. That sack of crap is also incarcerated. And I pray she gets just as many years as he gets. Sock it to her. Sock it to her. And some of you commented in the case that I brought to you earlier about pedophiles getting the death penalty for abusing children, or raping children. I concur. They should get the death penalty. Stop all this nonsense, wasting time, letting them eat and slumber and lay around. Just give them the needle to the arm and keep on pushing. And this heifer here, she deserves the needle to the arm as well. I don't feel anything for her. I don't feel anything for her at all. The mother. Because as I state, this updated article here is baffling to me when they say they didn't have custody. Because see, your mind starts to wonder. And that's something I'm really puzzled about now. Who had the children? Who had the children? Because there was no mention of that in either article. That someone else had the custody. Who had the custody? Who has the children now? If the children are even together, the boy and the girl, the brother and sister. I can't see that they'd be with that person at this point, could you? There's no way in hell that they should even be with whoever had them then when this assault took place. I'm baffled, I'm pissed, I'm aggravated, I'm angry because I'm sick of these stories about these children. I'm sick of hearing about children being neglected. I'm sick of hearing about children being left out to play by themselves and wander around the streets as if they're adults. I'm sick of hearing about people kidnapping children and violating them sexually and dumping them like trash. I'm sick of hearing about the parents violating and beating their kids and abusing them and sexually violating them as well. I'm sick of the stories. And they are just nonstop right now. It's like it's a trend. Last year in America, all I heard was people leaving their babies in cars. That was the thing last year. Let's go leave the baby in the car. I forgot about my baby. Oh, I was on my way to work. Oh, I was rushing. Oh, I had to take the other kid to school. Oh, I had to go to the grocery store. All that shenanigans. Baby laying in hot cars while you running around dropping off one kid at a school here and there. So you see, it's never ending. It's always some form of abuse. Neglecting them, not taking care of them, not loving them, not treating them properly, talking to them properly, bathing them, clothing them, feeding them, sexually violating them, leaving them out to play, dropping them off in different places and projects, different places, let the kids run amok. It's sickening. Because you see, there's all forms of abuse. It ain't just sexual abuse. Neglecting, period. Not caring about your child welfare. Not seeing that they get the vital needs that they need to sustain life, to be a better person, to be a child, to be able to live comfortably. Doesn't matter. Talking crazy to them, beating them, leaving them with anybody, letting anybody keep them, throwing them outside, letting them watch themselves. You see, it's all kinds of abuse. And every day there is a wicked story that pops up about some child being abused, some child missing, some child found dead. It's nonstop and it needs to stop. people who are going to have to be more vigilant and keep an open eye. I know a lot of people, maybe some of you don't want to get involved in people's personal business, people's personal affairs, because in the end they have to call you in, ask you questions. Eventually you have to testify, and sometimes it goes terribly wrong. They end up keeping their kids because the state don't like taking kids from their mama and daddy. It's got to be so severe for a child to get taken. But usually it's too late when the state steps in, such as this case here. He's been damaged physically and mentally as well. Hopefully in time he won't remember any of this because he's so young. But it's tragic nonetheless. Keep a watchful eye. Watch anything that's odd to you. You see something, say something. We have got to stop these stories from happening. There are people out here who don't need children. They have no business having sexual relations, which would make a baby. And now the world has to come in and step in because these people have no business birthing children. Like and share. Drop your comments below. And thanks for listening to me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Bye-bye.